Hello everyone, and thanks for tuning in. This is a video tutorial that's going to show you how to assemble our NCR Veteran Ranger raw cast helmet. In this tutorial we're going to go over cleaning up the different pieces of the helmet as well as assembling the various components. In the first step here we're going to use a rotary tool with a cutting wheel, and we're going to trim off the excess flashing. Here we're going to be working with the three main parts of the helmet, which would be the front of the mask, the back of the mask, and the dome itself. The other smaller parts were made using a two-piece mold and won't require very much cleanup at all. These components here were made using the rotocasting process, so we've got to take off the excess flashing from that process. So you see I'm going around the outside edge of the mask. I'm also cleaning up the hose adapter area, the gas canister area, the eyes, and the mouth. And you want to make sure that the back of these little resin tabs here are nice and flat. That's going to help the assembly process a little bit later. We tried to make this video as short and sweet as possible. We actually had it cut down to about 15 minutes, but everything on the screen was going by so quickly it was hard to see what was going on. So we had to go back in and slow everything down a bit so you guys could tell what we were doing. Alright, now I'm going in and removing the excess flashing in the mouth area. You can start from the front and then, cut out the excess in the back. Once we finish that, we've got to grind down the back of the mouth area. And the reason why we want to do that is because a little bit later on we're going to be gluing in some stainless steel mesh. And we want that to look nice and clean from the front. So the key to that is to making sure that the back of it, the back of the mouth area, is nice and flat. While you've got the cutting wheel out, this is a good opportunity to go ahead and add any additional battle damage to the mask that you would like to put in, if you want it to look a little bit more battle worn than it already is. Sometimes when you're making your first pass, you may not cut all the way through the resin. So as you see me do right here, I'm going to come in from the back side, just like that, and finish the job. Alright, now you see me using the cutting wheel to clean up the left ear pod. That can work, but it's a little tricky to get the cutting wheel in and out of the small areas around the ear pod. So we actually developed a different method using a grinding bit. And we found this bit on Amazon, so you guys could go and check it out. It's about $10. You actually get 5 different sizes. And if you do a search, you can look it up under professional nail sanding cap drill bits. And apparently this is used in the beauty industry. I guess when your people are getting their nails done. But what's so great about these pieces is it's kind of like your sanding drum, but it also has a domed tip on it with the sanding material all over the dome as well, so you can actually grind at any angle, whereas your sanding drum, you have to keep it nice and flat. As you can see, it's taken me quite a while to clean up this ear pod area using the cutting wheel. So these other bits I'm telling you about really do save a lot of time, and I'm going to put a picture of them up right here so you could see what they look like. And with these bits, you'll just be able to go in from the back side and grind down the excess flashing and smooth everything out all at the same time. Alright, here in this next step we're going to use a sanding drum and we're going to clean up the edges. So the goal here is to remove any of the leftover material that you couldn't get with the cutting wheel. You don't want to get too close with the cutting wheel because you could end up damaging the mask, cutting away parts of it that you don't want to. So you always leave a little bit of leftover flashing material that you can come back and get with the sanding drum. You have a lot more control. And you want to go ahead and round off the edges of the mask as well. You don't want any sharp edges or corners that are going to make it uncomfortable for you. So if you round it off as you're going around the edge there, then you can make sure that the mask is going to be comfortable for you to wear. And you can also keep an eye out for any globs of resin or shards of fiberglass that are sticking out on the inside of the mask, and grind those down at this time. Especially right here on the forehead part of the mask. This is going to be touching your forehead, so you want to make sure that it's nice and smooth and round it off as much as possible so that it's as comfortable as it can be. Alright, so now I'm going to go in around the mouth area and grind down a little bit on the walls and up over the edge. That's going to help the glue for that stainless steel mesh adhere better. In this area here next to the eye, you can grind that down if you got one of our exhaust fan kits. That's where we're going to be gluing in the magnetic battery mount. Alright, so it's kind of out of range on the video, but right now I'm removing some excess material that is making the dome, the inside of the dome, a little bit too thick right there. And so you want to do that if you notice any thick areas so that the mask will fit nice inside of it. All of these pieces have a really defined edge on it from the mold, so there won't be any guesswork as to how thick they should be. As I'm coming back around to the light pod area, the battery pod has a raised area on the inside of the mask, and you can grind a little bit away from the surface of that raised area. That's where we're going to be mounting the magnetic battery mount a little bit later. And right there, if you grind away a little extra material on the light pod, it's going to help the mask fit inside a little bit better. In the front sides of this mask here on the back piece of the mask, the front of it is key because you want to make sure that you grind everything down to the defined edge because that's where it's going to be mounting to the front of the mask. After you get these pieces cleaned up, you can also do a test fit with the mask to see if it fits you fine. If it's, a little bit too small. There are some key areas that you might be able to cut away that'll help it fit a little bit better. One of those is going to be on the back piece of the mask here around the bottom neckline, and on the front of the mask you can cut away a little bit of the height on the forehead, and underneath on the jaw you can remove some of that. That'll open it up a little bit more. And you can see I'm spending a lot of time sanding this ear pod area on the left side, and that's why those other grinding bits are so helpful, is because they'll do both jobs in one pass. Alright, here on the back of the mask right there, that's also a good place if you need a little bit more room. You can cut away some height on the back of the mask, and that'll give you a little bit more room for the back of your head. Okay, so in this next step here, after the pieces have been painted, it's time to assemble them. And you'll see some text prompts pop up on the screen, and they can go by a little quickly, so if you need to pause the video, feel free to do that. We wanted to include specific instructions in some of the key areas. When you're gluing in the stainless steel mesh, you need to do it in stages. So the first stage here, we're going to glue down the flat part of it. And then you can hold that part down while the glue dries. And then you can glue down the tabs after that. Alright, this one's real easy. You just drop it right in the gas canister. Okay, this again, we're going to glue the stainless steel mesh in, but we're going to do it in stages. So once you push the stainless steel mesh down, the glue is going to come through, but you want to go ahead and add some more glue on top of that. And then we're going to start with a couple of the sections. You can do one at a time if you'd like. And then you hold that down while the glue dries to make sure that everything's nice and flat. And then you can do the last section. You want to make sure that all of the edges of the stainless steel mesh get covered completely. You don't want any wires poking out of the hot glue, because the edge of that stainless steel mesh can be very sharp. If you're thinking about purchasing one of our raw cast kits, just know that we do offer all of the other components necessary to assemble the mask. That's going to save you a lot of time in the long run, and money probably as well. You won't have to worry about sourcing your materials, and everything is all pre-cut, pre-assembled, and ready to install. You don't need a lot of glue on the back of this button, just enough. You can drop it in place. The glue will push through the mesh. That's going to hold it. You can always add a little bit more glue to the back of the button if you'd like. Might be necessary to clean up the recessed areas inside these tabs where you put the magnets in order to make sure that they drop in nice and easy. Alright, and you definitely want to do this one side at a time. Sometimes when you push the two pieces together, they can actually glue, you actually glue the two pieces of the mask together, so you want to be very careful when you pry them apart. It's important to go ahead and reinforce these little magnetic discs. You want to put some glue up underneath of them and cover the tabs. That way they're supported and secured in place. You won't have to worry about those coming off. Right, these two resin pieces right here are actually part of the helmet, and then all the other components here are part of the LED kit. Be careful when you're pushing the switch through the hole there. Be gentle with it. Take your time. And the back of the switch cover is not going to require a lot of glue either. This is the part I was talking about grinding away earlier, so that you can glue in the magnetic battery mount. If you don't have a heat gun, you could always use a hairdryer on high heat. It may take a little bit longer, but you should still be able to shape the ribbed hose. While the glue is still hot, you could take a toothpick and glide it over the surface of the glue, and that'll remove any excess glue and also make it give it a really nice flat smooth finish. Same thing with the antenna here, as I'll show you in just a second. You need to put a tack or a nail head inside the end of the hose from the inside of the mask. That's going to prevent it from pulling out. If you don't, the hose will just come right out. And that's the area I was talking about grinding away for this magnetic battery mount. And when you're drilling out the gas canister, you will be going through both the outer and inner gas canister. Again, you want to use the nail head to secure the hoses in the fittings. It will prevent them from pulling out. And on this next section, we lost the footage to show you how to drill the holes for these, but all of the locations for the holes are pre-marked. So it's as simple as drilling the holes, sticking the wire in, and then gluing them in place. That's it, guys. Enjoy your new helmet. If you do have any questions, feel free to contact us and we'll get back to you ASAP.
There we have it.